What's up, ladies and gentlemen? In this video, I want to talk about the lease deal on a Rivian R1S Quad-Motor. Now, in my opinion, this is one of the best lease deals in the country on a full-size premium electric SUV. So if you've been thinking about buying or leasing a Rivian R1S, I think you'll get a lot of value from this video. Now, in my personal opinion, I think that leasing a Rivian R1S makes a lot more financial sense than buying or financing one, and we'll get into that in this video. So in the first part of this video, we'll go to Rivian.com and we'll do a full analysis on the lease terms for this particular lease deal. And in the second part of this video, we'll talk about my 1.25% rule of leasing, which is pretty much a rule of thumb that I use to determine whether or not a lease is a good value or not. And ladies and gentlemen, I think the Rivian R1S is a tremendous value when it comes to leasing. And then in the third part of this video, we'll compare the monthly finance payments on this Rivian R1S to the monthly lease payments, and that will help showcase why I think leasing this particular car is a financial no-brainer. So enough talking, let's jump into the computer. If you guys could like this video and give me a follow or a subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are on the Rivian website, and as you can see, they have an advertisement right up front and center. It says, lease a quad-motor, all-wheel drive Rivian R1S for $699 a month. Now, as you can see, I have it filtered by quad-motor all-wheel drive, but as you can see, the prices really range. You got $93,750 all the way up to $101,250. So I just figured I would scroll down, and I found this one, which is sitting at about $94,500. And I thought this was a good midpoint car to study in this video. And as you can see, it is the quad motor all-wheel drive Black Mountain plus dark ash wood. It has a 21-inch road wheels, 321 miles of range, 835 horsepower. And when I read these electric car horsepower numbers, I still get a kick out of it. And a 0 to 60 time, which is also ridiculous, of 3 seconds. Now, if I click on this, it's gonna take me down to this page. And what you wanna do, okay, we've got all of the options listed right here, but what you wanna do is click down here where it says $728 a month, monthly lease payment, and that's gonna bring up this little pop-up window. Now, the lease terms that I have are for Washington, since that's where I live. I'm doing a 36-month lease, but you can also do a 24-month lease if you'd like to do so. And these leases are offered through Rivian Financial, so you're not going through a third-party bank like US Bank, Wells Fargo, etc. Annual mileage, I have it set to 10,000 miles a year, but you can also do 12,000 miles or 15,000 miles a year if you'd like to. And one of the things people get hung up on leasing is the mileage. They say, hey, Ravi, I drive way more than 10,000 miles a year. And what I tell those folks is to get a 12,000 or a 15,000 mile a year lease up front, because it's cheaper to get those 12 or 15,000 mile a year leases up front rather than pay the excess mileage penalty. I'm also running this lease deal on tier 1 credit, so my credit score is above a 740, but if you have less than 740, you can also select those, and the payment will automatically adjust. And we have a down payment of $7,000. Now, you can adjust this down payment, but it looks like Rivian automatically defaults to $7,000. And that brings the total due at signing to $8,623 when you factor in the acquisition fee of $895 and the first month's payment of $728. And ladies and gentlemen, the acquisition fee is something that you cannot get out of. Any car from any manufacturer that you lease is going to have an acquisition fee. They're typically between $500 to $1,000, and it's just something that you have to bite the bullet on. Now, let me actually see if I can zoom in on this fine print down here. It says that the cash amount due at signing includes $7,000 capitalized cost reduction, first month payment, $895 acquisition fee. But as you can see here, ladies and gentlemen, it says tax, title, license, registration, and documentation fees are additional fees that are due at signing. So here in the state of Washington, you're looking at registration fees for this particular truck. If you're in the 94,000, 95,000 range, and it's an EV, you're probably looking at about $1,200 to $1,300, I would say. And then on top of that, you're gonna have to pay taxes on your rebates. So this definitely qualifies for the $7,500 EV tax credit. And at a 10% tax rate, you're looking to pay about $750 in taxes. So let's say an additional $2,000, that will be due at signing, which is not included in this $8,623 that you see here. So that additional $2,000 would be your total drive-offs. And in my opinion, it's really important to know the difference, because a lot of people see this due at signing amount of $8,623 and they think that that's all they're going to have to pay, but they're not factoring in the taxes that they're going to have to pay on rebates and registration fees that are based on the state that you live in. And I also wanted to point out that if you drive this car more than 10,000 miles a year, you're going to be charged 30 cents per mile for excess mileage. And at the end of the lease term, you're going to have to pay a $495 disposition fee. And ladies and gentlemen, disposition fees are standard across the industry. And you don't have to pay this if you end up buying this Rivian at the end of the lease term, because it does have a buyout option. Now in this part of the video, I want to run the 1.25% rule of leasing on this Rivian R1S Quad-Motor. Again, the 1.25% rule of leasing is just a rule of thumb that I use to determine whether or not a lease is a good value. And as you guys are going to see, this Rivian R1S Quad-Motor is a tremendous value in my opinion. And as you can see, I've got the handy dandy calculator out, and what I'm going to do is take the due at signing amount of $8,623 and subtract the first month's payment of $728. And when I do that, I get $7,895. Now what I'm going to do is divide this by 36, since this is a 36-month lease, and I get $219. Now what I did is I took that due at signing amount and I broke it up into 36 equal parts. Now what I'm going to do is add the monthly payment of $728 back in, and that gives me a pre-tax monthly payment of $947. Now I'm going to multiply this by 1.1 to account for 10% sales tax here in the city of Seattle. Now my tax rate is probably higher than yours, so this is actually a conservative estimate if you're watching in a place with a low tax rate. And when I do this, I get a monthly payment, including taxes, with $0 due at signing of $1,042. Now what I'm going to do is take this monthly payment and divide it by this car's MSRP, which is $94,500. And when I do that, I get 0.011. I'm going to multiply this by 100 to move the decimal point over 2 spots. And when I do that, I get 1.1%. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the rule of thumb that I use is that anytime your monthly lease payment with $0 down, including taxes, is less than 1.5% of the vehicle's MSRP, that's a good lease deal. That's a car or an SUV or a truck that I would strongly consider leasing instead of financing. Now, anytime your monthly payment with $0 down, including taxes, is less than 1.25% of the MSRP, that's a great deal. That's a car that I'm leasing every single time. And if your monthly lease payment with taxes included with $0 down is less than 1%, that's an amazing lease deal. And ladies and gentlemen, those sub 1% lease deals just don't come around very often. But as you can see, this Rivian is sitting at 1.1%, which makes this a tremendous lease value and a car that I would personally lease instead of finance. Now in this part of the video, I want to compare the monthly lease payments on this Rivian R1S Quad-Motor to the monthly finance payments, and we can do that within the Rivian website. They make it really, really easy to do. So to compare the monthly lease payments to the monthly loan payments, what I'm going to do is change this $7,000 down payment to $0, and that will impact the monthly payment. It increases the monthly payment to $932 a month. But check this out, ladies and gentlemen. If I were to finance the same car with $0 down, let's change this to $0 down, a 72-month loan, my monthly payment is $1,765 a month. Now, people are probably asking, you guys are probably wondering, hey, why is there such a big difference? Well, ladies and gentlemen, when you lease this particular car, you get the $7,500 EV tax credit. When you finance it, you do not get that tax credit. And on top of that, when you lease this car, you're probably getting other favorable terms in terms of the money factor, aka the interest rate that you're paying. And I'm sure the residual value is slightly inflated by Rivian, so that they can sell more units. And if we take that $1,765 monthly payment if you finance this car and subtract the lease payment of $932, you'd be saving $833 a month by leasing this particular car. And if you multiply that by 36, which is the duration of the lease, you'd be saving $29,988 over 36 months. Now, I know a lot of you are probably thinking, hey, Ravi, if you lease this car, you don't really own it. Well, the good news is that Rivians have a buyout option, unlike Tesla, and that means that at the end of the lease term, maybe you have equity or maybe you love the truck, you do have the option to purchase this Rivian R1S, and I think that's a fantastic feature of Rivian leases. It lets you take advantage of the $7,500 EV tax credit, and then if you want to own it long term, you still have the option to buy this particular SUV at the end of the lease term. And another misconception that people have is that you don't save money by driving electric vehicles. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if this was a gas-powered SUV with 835 horsepower, I mean, you're probably getting like 10 to 15 miles per gallon if you're lucky. Like, let's look at a Durango Hellcat. That's probably like your primary example. But with this Rivian R1S, if you charge at home, you're probably spending $50 to $60 a month in electricity. And if this were a gas-powered truck, you'd probably be spending $250 to $300 a month if you're driving 10 or 12,000 miles a year. So that's a substantial difference, and that's a substantial amount of savings, and that actually lowers the effective monthly cost of this all-electric SUV even more. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call it a video. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them. Financial knowledge is power. Please like and follow for more.